Welcome to the Never Open Podcast, the podcast open to everyone except poor Yoshihashi, but never say never. I am LSJ, or Luke, or whatever the heck you want to call me. And with me, as always, it's the second time, but as always, here with my co-host, Andy, and we'll be covering nights 3, 4, and 5 of New Japan Pro Wrestling's New Japan Cup. How are you, Andrew?
I'm pretty good, man. Do we need to nail down our own, our names? I mean, is it confusing for listeners, and we each have 3 different names? Should we nail it down or do we not care?
No, I don't care about that.
I mean, we're not the important part of the show anyway, but man, I love that intro song. It's awful catchy, don't you think?
Oh yeah. We were headbanging to it before we pressed record, and
it's definitely a headbanger, man. Well, Luke, where can folks find us on the internet, and where can they tell us if they like our nicknames or not?
All right, if we have too many names, you can email us at NeverOpenPod@gmail.com, or you can just tell us off directly on Twitter. My handle is Grumpy2. That's the number 2 EB. For Electric Boogaloo there. And we have our own Twitter that you usually use because I guess we can't use it at the same freaking time, but it's at NeverOpenPod over there on the tweet. So, follow us, join us for shows, or if you're not with us live, go and have a look at our stuff afterwards, I don't know.
I'm going to look into that because I'm pretty sure we can both use it at the same time, but now a mystery is solved. I was wondering.
No, but the reason I say we can't is because, if we both use it at the same time, no one's going to know what the fuck said what. And I don't want to have to put in brackets every single tweet, this is Grumpy, by the way. Luke said this.
Okay. Fair enough. Well, we could do like Hulk Hogan and have the HH at the end, brother. But no, I agree with you. But at the same time, it is a lot of fun. We just got done watching night 5, and the live tweeting today was a lot of fun. And man, I don't know, Luke. What do you think about this week versus last week? How does this one stack up?
Okay. One of the nights, I'm looking at you, night 4, was not the greatest night of New Japan Pro Wrestling I've ever seen. Was it a total stinkfest? No. There was still some fun to be had, but yeah, I think we got spoiled on night 3, really spoiled. And so night 4, poor wrestlers on night 4. But I'm just I love you guys, but oh man. And that's the thing with wrestling shows, with the amount of wrestling that we get with New Japan and all that stuff. Not everything we watch is going to be a winner. But the good thing is, even on an off day, New Japan Pro Wrestling is still pretty solid and a lot of fun, turns out.
Yeah, there was one in particular thing on night 4 that made me shit my pants. So it was amazing. But, well, Luke, I think that every week or every time we have an episode, we should talk about a different just aspect of New Japan. And what I was hoping we could talk about today is how do you watch it? Because there's a lot of people out there that may be listening to this that don't watch it or don't know how to watch it. And, we don't work for New Japan, but we want you to watch it so you can join in the fun. How do you watch it, Luke?
I think it's a given that we're shilling for New Japan doing a New Japan fan podcast. But I watch it at NJPWworld.com. So I've got a HDMI cable that runs from my laptop all the way to my TV. But, that's how I usually watch it. We got another TV in another room with a Chromecast in it. And that works fine, usually for smaller shows. If it's a bigger show, like, say, a Dominion or a Big G1 night or something like that, might want to stick to the other setup. But yeah, I've got it on my phone. You can get a New Japan World app on your phone, which will help you Chromecast onto things as well. or just, watch it on your phone on the go. But I generally watch it on my nice big TV. I'm looking at it right now because thanks to that HDMI cord, I've got my notes on it, and which is very helpful. But that's how I watch it. What about you?
Well, normally I did like back in the day when it first came out, I did what you do, and I had an HDMI cable and HDMI cable. That's how you say that. And I put it in the TV, and that worked really great. But then I got a Chromecast, right? And the Chromecast works really well. For some reason, I always have to try it twice, and it works the second time every time. But recently, Apple, I use Apple stuff, and there is a app update for the iPhone which screwed up Chromecast. So I don't know if you've noticed this, but like the sound will be off. It's not quite on the beat or on tempo or whatever with the video when you watch through Mac. But if you look at the New Japan World site, they have a system maintenance coming up here in a couple days to fix that. Now, I knew we needed, I needed a way to watch this that was more, successful as far as that goes while this is going on. So I bought an Amazon Fire Stick, and it works really great on there. It's, it's at 1080p at 60 hertz or whatever. It's really high quality. But my only beef is that every time I log into it, I have to log in. I have to put my email and the password in every damn time, which fucking sucks. That sucks. Especially when I'm doing that at like 5:30 in the morning here, and I'm like, what is my email?
Oh, yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah, so, oh shit, I just had a thing about how people watch New Japan Pro Wrestling, and it's gone. So let's move to night 3, shall we, of the New Japan Cup. What do you reckon?
Yeah, sounds good, man. This is kind of one of the best nights of the whole damn thing so far.
It is absolutely incredible, but there is an announcement at the start, which is all in Japanese, but anyone who watched the Kevin Kelly delayed broadcast, he probably explained to everyone what it's about. But thankfully, Chris Charlton was on Twitter, and the announcement at the start of Night 3 was about their brand new Friday night primetime show, which starts July 3rd. So it looks like even when the tour's finished, there's going to be at least a couple of hours New Japan every week.
Yeah, sort of. So this is kind of like a NXT type situation. At least it seems like this stuff. A lot of this stuff's already been filmed at the New Japan Dojo in America. And so this is basically all the Gaijin wrestlers that are either promising wrestlers that they want to, sign to the new Young Lion program, or just people that are stuck in America. So I think that's the kind of folks we're going to see. I did hear that Filthy Tom Lawler's going to be on there, and a bunch of guys that, you kind of heard of from the United States and everything. So that's interesting. Now, Luke, we made it an executive decision about this show, though, right?
We did?
Yeah. You asked if we were going to cover it, and we both were like, hell no.
Oh, yeah. Well, if it's just... Yes. My brain. Look, if it's a Young Lion fest, look, there's no offense to Young Lions. They're great. They're up and coming. There's nothing wrong with wanting to watch an all Young Lion show, but they are often draws, or just finish with a usual Boston Crab or a suplex of some kind. It can be not fun to cover, I guess, because we'd just be like Yota Tsuji versus Uemura. I'm using Japanese Young Lions. I can't remember the names of all the American ones. And it ends in a draw, or it's Boston Crab City or something like that. It's now if they manage to actually look, they've actually got a New Japan champion living in America right now, which is Mr. John Moxley. So if there's a possibility that we might get some Kenta or some Moxley or some Switchblade or even Guerrillas of Destiny, because I think they're all stuck in America at the moment. So maybe that's a possibility, or maybe I'm just being a little too hopeful.
Yeah, I think you're being too hopeful. I think this, like I said, most of this stuff's already, been filmed, and and it might be fun, and it might be something that I watch. I just don't know that it's worthy of Never Open Podcast. So yeah, that's how high and mighty we are already. So
Yeah, we're like New Japan snobs already.
wait, I've been a New Japan snob for years.
All right. So, like, another thing I want to mention before we get into the actual matches is where they're filming this. I just want to say, like, the professionalism of the wrestlers is amazing because the commentators, they don't do anything wrong. They do their normal commentating stick, but you can hear them echoing slightly in the empty arena. And you got to know that the wrestlers are beating the crap out of each other while also hearing the commentators talk about them quite plainly at ringside. So the fact that none of the wrestlers, during the matches or anything like that, seem to acknowledge any of the commentators, especially when they can hear them say "Lariato," and "Ishii" or something like that really loud. That they can hear them. So I just thought that was fun.
It's true. It's true. My favorite New Japan Japanese announcer trait is when a big move happens and you just hear "Ah!" That's what I like. And it might be 2 or 3 guys yelling like that at the same time, and they're not saying a word. They're just yelling because look at what just happened.
Well, if they could all just go, "Oh shit," they probably would.
Maybe they do. We don't know.
And they're at a different place than they were the previous week. So the previous week looked like a smaller venue. I didn't notice any echo from the commentating team that time either, probably because of the smaller venue and stuff. But it's not an annoyance. You notice it, you get over it, and then you just watch it. I think you theorized this might be Korakuen Hall on the good old website. It just says unknown.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Korakuen Hall. It looks weird without the posters hanging up, and instead of entering from the sides, the wrestlers are entering from the straight on curtain, and I don't know, but Korakuen Hall, one of these days we'll just kind of have to do a 10-20 minute talk just about that venue and how legendary it is and how I love it, and it's a little different now, but it does feel very New Japan, and that building screams pro wrestling, so it feels pretty nice.
Yep. And I guess we started off with a match where Doki doesn't lose. So we've got Yuji Nagata, we've got Yuya Uemura, Yota Tsuji, and Gabriel Kidd versus Suzuki Goons, Daoki, Yoshinobu Kanemaru, El Desperado, and Minoru Suzuki. So Suzuki's pissed off. He just lost an epic match from the previous week against Yuji Nagata. But that's okay. Yuji Nagata's brought 3 young lions with him for Suzuki to take his frustrations out on.
Well, and this is obvious that now this story is going to continue, because Suzuki didn't give a shit that he was even in a match. He just attacked Nagata and beat the shit out of him, and that was pretty much his only goal in this match. So, maybe at Dominion we'll get these 2 fighting in a singles match or something, which I would love to see again. I mean, it was so awesome. Luke, one thing I want to tell you real quick, too, we kind of were talking about this and dancing around it last week, but we didn't nail it home. We were talking about how Dookie is here in New Japan because someone got injured. And then we talked about that person being injured but didn't connect the dots, and that was Desperado. So it was Desperado that got injured and wasn't in the Super Juniors, so then Dookie came in and took his place.
Okay, and I like how you say Dookie. Okay, that's poor Daoki. He needs to do something about that name, dude.
Well, someone was giving a shit about good luck pronouncing names. So, suck it, buddy. We're pronouncing them all exactly the way they're supposed to be pronounced.
That's right. And yeah, so I guess they must have liked Daoki's reliability or something, because he's stuck around, so he's pretty much like Suzuki Gun's Chase Owens, I guess.
That's true.
Look, with a match like this, what you've got to do is you got Yota Tsuji, Yuya Uemura, and Gabriel Kidd. So I guess the idea behind this match is, which young lion do you think is getting pinned? I had my money on Gabriel Kidd because I think he's the lowest totem on the young lion poll. That didn't sound good. And, El Pinche Loco and El Desperado pins Yota Tsuji.
Luke, do you know what that means in English?
Crazy shit.
Fucking crazy. That's what it means. Pinche is fucking, Loco's crazy. I used to work with a bunch of Spanish-speaking people, and I was known as Pinche Andy because Pinche Andy, that's it's pretty great. So,
and we have our first tournament match of the night. It's Ryusuke Taguchi versus Sonata, and they do a trope in New Japan that I really like, that you see sometimes. You see them sometimes in Okada matches. And it's one of those things where, all right, they go to fist bump. Taguchi really wants that fist bump. And then as Sonata comes in for the fist bump, he goes to kick him and he catches the leg. And then there's that I'm sorry. And then, carefully placing the leg back down onto the ground and backing off, which leads to them catching each other's legs and placing them down on the mat as nice as nice can be. So I really like fun little spots like that. The other wrestler trying to get the one-upmanship on the other.
Well, and Taguchi's the master of that kind of stuff. He, like we've said before, I mean, he can be a serious wrestler, but even then he's going to work in a little bit of comedy here. And Sonata doesn't make facial expressions. So he does not make any facial expressions no matter what is happening. So his reactions to Taguchi, or non-reactions, were really fun. Luke,
he's a cold skull.
He is. It's Cold Skull. You got to say it real quiet and then yell his name. They go, Cold Skull. Sonata! Like that. What do you think about Sonata's journey over the past year in New Japan?
I think they got a story for him. I think there's a reason everyone else at LIJ has a title and Sonata doesn't. I think there's going to be a story, whether it plays out in this New Japan Cup or over the course of the rest of the year, addressing the fact that, there's no titles in Sonata, and yet 2 members of LIJ have 2 titles. So, as for that, I think he's a wrestler that gels really well with everybody. But usually, he keeps his style generally the same, but he's able to kind of have these kind of fun comedy matches. And I just remember him having classics with Zack Sabre Jr. and things like that. He's got this ongoing story, I guess, that he can't ever beat Okada, but he finally did that last year, which led to him losing to Okada again. So,
which that's a lot of people's story, by the way. But
yeah,
it's almost like, with Sonata, it's like he's, in New Japan, for listeners and folks that are new to it, it takes years for guys to get to the top, typically. I mean, very rarely, only in the John Moxley's, situation, which he didn't, he's still not at the top. They gave him a title or whatever. But the point is that to get to the top, you need years. And so Sonata is one of these guys that, in 3 or 4 years, I could see being, main eventing, the Tokyo Dome. But that's 10 guys in New Japan that have that same kind of thing. And it's really important in pro wrestling because of injuries and who knows what else is going on, with these guys. You got to have people that can step up at any time. And I think of all the promotions in the world, New Japan does this better than any of them, where every single person on the roster, for the most part, is a legit threat for the title. All they need is about a month. Give them a month.
Yoshihashi.
Well, fuck Yoshihashi and his stupid crap. I don't like him. You're right, except for Yoshihashi. Good call.
But yeah, and it's a fun match. There's one spot I wanted to mention where Taguchi thinks he's put the the Paradise Lock on Sonata. It's that move where Sonata always ties people in knots. So many people want to mimic that move, and Taguchi thinks he's fucking nailed it, and yet Sonata standing up behind him. There's some pretty cool counters and stuff
And
in this match too,
some
but
fun stuff about that Paradise Lock thing too is that I don't know if it was invented by, but it's definitely brought to New Japan by Milano Collection AT, who is one of the announcers, and he was like the first guy to win the Super Juniors and then enter the G1. He's a legendary wrestler in New Japan. And so a lot of times Taguchi or whoever's trying to learn it will like kind of they will acknowledge him as an announcer and say, hey, can you help me out? Because will you teach me this thing? Come on, how do I get out of this? And so a lot of times when a guy's tied up in it, they're just looking at Milano going, hey, what do I do? This is great stuff.
Milano's never going to help anyway. He's usually sitting at the commentary position wearing a Sonata t-shirt. Sonata and Evil being his two favorite wrestlers. So you're not going to get much help out of Milano Collection that way. And we've got a bridging suplex kind of thing, and Sonata wins, defeating Taguchi. Not too much of a surprise there, but it was still a really, really fun match. Great way to open the show. And following that, for me anyway, is match of the night. The match I probably would have preferred to have seen be the main event, which is Sho versus Takagi, 2 belts. I've been loving the story of these two, which I guess is a very Okada story, now that I think of it, where Sho can never quite beat Shingo. He gets a little closer each time, but either in tags or in one-on-one matches, but can never quite pull it off. And Sho's not fucking around. They start off, colliding with each other right out the gate. What do you think of this match?
Oh, it's fantastic. It doesn't get much better than this. And if you're a listener and you're not familiar with this feud or this story, New Japan's application for it does have a pretty for New Japan World, it does have a pretty good search function. So you can just search Sho versus Takagi or Sho versus Shingo, and it'll bring up every match they've ever been in with each other. And I would recommend going back to the beginning and seeing the 4 or 5 matches that they had against each other, and you'll see what we were talking about in episode 1, where they're using moves to tell this story and which moves and all. It's just awesome. I noticed that Sho was really trying to work over Shingo's arm because that's what you want to do. Shingo's got the most ridiculous lariat, in the juniors, in the heavyweights. I don't know. He's one of the best at the lariat. So you want to try to stop him from doing that, and that was kind of the key to success maybe for Sho here.
Yeah. So this match features lots of my favorite things, which are lariats and suplexes. They suplex the hell out of each other, clotheslines. Sho, I love the suplexes Shingo does. He's very powerful, but I love I'd love the deadlift German, and I like that spot where they kind of make it look like, oh, will he do it? Will he do it? And slowly gets him up over for a German. Sho does that. He does it all the time, not just on juniors, though. He does it on heavyweights quite often as well. And, oh, man, I thought Shingo was going to come away with the win here, but, oh, man, shock arrow and Sho beats Shingo Takagi, which, depending on how Sho goes in the New Japan Cup, if he loses, which I don't see him winning the Cup, but in his back pocket there, he'll have a never open title shot with Shingo Takagi in the future, I am hoping.
This is yet another way that New Japan tells stories, is that, we'll talk a little more about the tournaments and which ones there are and all that stuff later. But in these tournaments, champions get pinned. And not always, but most of the time, a champion will get pinned during the G1, during, one of these tournaments, New Japan Cup, whatever. And so when that happens, then you have an automatic storyline to fall back on when the tournament's over. It also kind of tells you that Shingo's not going to win the tournament, Sho's not going to win the tournament, because, to me, that's the Shingo story is more important than the tournament for him, because he's obviously not going to go beat, Naito, but that's just my opinion.
No, I agree there. So I would say, even though it does set up a storyline, it's still a surprise. You easily could have seen them draw out the Kensho beat Shingo storyline out longer, but now he's finally done it. The Band-Aid's been ripped off. Sho is a threat to Shingo and to Shingo's Never Open title, so that's very exciting. And following that, I know Sho versus Shingo was my favorite match of the night. It doesn't mean the next two matches suck. It really doesn't, because we've got one of my favorite matchups. We've got Kota Ibushi versus Zack Sabre Jr. And I really like this match, though this is very much one of those Zack Sabre Jr. matches where he dominates, and it's more like the wrestler wins by, in this case, Kota Ibushi wins by surviving what Zack Sabre Jr. throws at him. So I thought it was great. Ends with a Kamigoye for Kota Ibushi, and he advances. But wow, really good match. And I thought Zack Sabre was going to twist him up.
He did, man. I mean, there's all these crazy spots where he's got him, next to the ropes in some kind of crazy pretzel, and then Ibushi's trying to reach for the ropes, but no, he grabs that arm, and then he goes for the other arm. Oh no, he's got all four arms, and you were kind of talking about that in our first episode about how you can't even tap out to Zack Sabre Jr. You just have to yell, "I quit," And you also mentioned something I would like you to elaborate on if you can. You mentioned that Kota Ibushi, you said, he looks like just kind of like your white meat babyface type of dude, but he's insane. What do you mean Ibushi's insane?
He does moves that this guy, he just looks like a... Oh my God, I'm just trying to elaborate. He's just a crazy motherfucker is pretty much what I mean. You see that kind of look that he has, and it by no means reflects what he does in the ring at all. His kicks and strikes, he is one of the most brutal competitors New Japan has, in my opinion. And he's... Like, he had a match with someone where by the end of it, he put over a move and he had a concussion by the end of it. Like, this guy is fucking crazy. I watch some of his matches, especially like if you watch any of his series with Naito from, say, the last year, which is let me fuck your neck up. No, I'm going to fuck your neck up. And his matches have a tendency to be a little uncomfortable to watch, and I mean that in a good way. He's very stiff. Some of his kicks and strikes look a little too real, and I mean that in the best way possible. Like, he's just deadly. I think that's kind of what I'm trying to say here. You don't want to fuck with Kota Ibushi, that's for sure.
Well, and also, just to kind of add on to that, he broke his neck like twice or something. I mean, this guy is someone who has become nearly paralyzed by pro wrestling on more than one occasion, and he still is just a crazy motherfucker, like you said, who doesn't care. And he's got, like, all these guys, a lot of them have like a fourth gear. They get into the first gear, second gear, third gear in like some regular matches. And then they have a fourth gear that's like a main event style. But Ibushi has like a fifth gear that he goes to when shit gets really, really scary. And we'll talk about that a little more when we get to the weekly recommends and all that stuff. But man, this match was awesome. I was surprised by the finish because, like you said, it did kind of come out of nowhere, so to speak. But that's kind of sometimes the New Japan style of match. the way that American wrestling works is usually it's a 3-act structure. You got the shine, which is, where the baby face is beating up the bad guy, and all the crowd's all into it. And then the bad guy will cut him off, and we'll get the heat section, which is where the bad guy's just beating the shit out of him forever. He'll do a couple comebacks, he'll get cut off, and then we'll have the finish. And that's your 3-act structure. New Japan sometimes has a 1 or 2-act structure, or sometimes they have 4 or 5. So, like in this case, this was kind of like a 2-act structure where it was just like kind of like Zack Sabre Jr. beating the shit out of him kind of trying to come back, and then he wins. So it's a little different, and I really enjoy analyzing the match structure on these matches, especially New Japan, because it's so different, and different is good in my opinion.
Yeah. So I kind of like that too, because some of these finishes that a lot of wrestlers have are quite deadly, and so it doesn't quite matter if you've spent 10, 20 minutes getting your ass kicked. All you need is that one lucky shot, kind of like a real sport, as it were. Sometimes all it takes is just one punch to the face or one kick or something, and you rock your opponent, put your finisher on. Well, not in real sports, but, put your finisher on, and it can be over just like that. And so I'd say even though Kota Ibushi beat Zack Sabre Jr., he fucking survived. He spent that match trying to survive it all. So now, right before that match, I know I'm going backwards here. There was usual disinfectant and cleaning the ring and stuff, and a Grandmaster, way to the Grandmaster thing. But I saw a commercial for like fanny packs for the IC and heavyweight title belts, and I was like, I don't really wear fanny packs, but I would have worn a Never Open one. Do they have them? No, they don't have those. And I'm absolutely devastated and gutted, and it totally ruined my night. No, it didn't. But after that, we have our main event for the evening, which is Taichi versus Tanahashi. And you always know that a match isn't quite going to end until Taichi whips his pants off.
We were messaging, and like the match was going on, and you were like, he hasn't even taken his pants off yet.
Yep. Yeah. So I also said, especially after show 1 against Shingo, I just had a feeling because, all right, they're setting up a Never Open weight kind of thing there. I'm like, I wonder if either Taichi or Zack Sabre Jr. might pull out a victory tonight. So out of those 2 matches, I thought, well, I think Zack Sabre Jr. is probably going to pick up the win here. No offense to Taichi, but Zack Sabre Jr. is usually more of a threat in big matches, especially in tournaments, than Taichi is. But we're in for a surprise with this main event. It was really, really cool match, but the thing is, there had to be a beatdown on Tanahashi before the match because, if Hiroshi Tanahashi is at full strength, no one's going to believe that fucking Taichi is going to beat this guy.
That's true.
So, yes, we did the leg knee injury tease again, the previous week, but now we got him being extra beat up before the bell even rings. So Tanahashi is even extra damaged, which I guess is good for Taichi because he tries to hit it a few times, but yeah, Black Mephisto, and holy shit, Taichi has just beat Hiroshi Tanahashi, which is good. Like, I think it fits a trend with Taichi because he did get a big win over Naito last year. So, I think they're setting him up to be a threat every now and again. Like, every now and again, you'll see Taichi with a big name, and I think he's going to be one of those guys who can deliver surprises, and he did one tonight.
Yeah, it's just like we were talking about before with Sonata. He's a guy who's pretty much just in the chamber, ready to be tapped any time, and stuff like this really adds to his legitimacy, even though he cheated. But I mean, if Taichi's in a match and he doesn't cheat, then it's not a Taichi match. So, he's got Suzuki-gun in his back, and they're coming out and interfering and everything. And I love the result of this match because I was so scared we were going to get Tanahashi all beat up and somehow he overcomes and wins the whole thing, But because this isn't the case, we're not setting that up. We're setting up probably some kind of thing with the heavyweight title belts because him and Ibushi are the champions. And you had a comment about them. You said that that Ibushi and Tanahashi were the most handsome tag team champions of all time. Is that right?
I think so. I did say that out loud as I typed it to you as we were watching night 5. And Charity was, she's always paying attention when Kota Ibushi matches on the TV. And she's like, yep, you're right. That is correct. So, that's it's no lie. It's an actual fact. I got back up there in that case.
I can't wait. I can't wait to talk about tonight's, or the match that just happened earlier today, the tag match that involved Tanahashi and Taichi. Because man, there's some crazy shit in that match too.
Oh yeah, we will get there, but we have to get over the hump that is night 4 of the New Japan Cup, and yeah, yeah.
It's like they put all the matches you weren't really sure you even wanted to see all on one night, But like we said, there's one shining, beacon among the clouds, and we'll get to that. But I mean, there was some good stuff on this night too. I mean, maybe I'll talk you into liking some of this a little bit.
Yeah, it's actually possible, but I doubt the first match you'll be able to turn my mind around on, because we've got Yo versus Bushi. Apparently, Yo's teasing a new move called the Blind Falcon. I'm not 100% sure if we saw any move called the Blind Falcon. And him saying that he has this new move to debut, my mind immediately goes, well, if he's got a new move, obviously he's going to win because he's going to pull this new move out and everyone's going to... I was going to say everyone's going to go nuts, but there's no crowd. But, he's going to pull out this new move, and I think it has something to do with maybe a Nelson setup or something like that. Did you see it? I didn't see it.
I didn't, but he tried to set a few things up, and we heard the commentators do the, like the preparing to scream that they do. And so, you could be right that was him trying to set it up a few times. We won't know till we see it for sure. It's a shame that we didn't see it, but if it's a new move, maybe it's good we didn't do it in this match because this was Botchy McBotcherson.
They were not good together, I will say.
I like both these guys, but the thing is that, when you're a great wrestler, not a good wrestler, a great wrestler, like Ishii, for example, you can have a great match with anybody. Doesn't matter who they are. They can have a great match with me, and I don't even know how to wrestle. And when you get two guys that aren't great, but are good, kind of C+, then what happens is that it just doesn't, and they don't have chemistry, then it just doesn't quite work, and they don't bring each other up to a level. They bring each other down to a level. And that's what I think happened in this match.
So it ends with the botchiest looking MX, which I know there were botches on both sides in the match, but that MX was definitely not Bushi's fault. Yo was not in place properly, and it did look a little not great. But, MX and Bushi beats Yo, and thankfully that is, 15 minutes and 42 seconds that I can, scrub from my memory.
Well, Luke, this next match has one of my least favorite wrestlers in it, but I got to tell you, I fucking love this match.
I really enjoyed it too. There's one point in it, though, that I'll bring up in a tick, but we got Hiroyoshi Tenzan versus Yoshihashi. It's a pretty good match, and I really like Yoshihashi's chops in this one. They're quite loud. They look really nasty, and I really like those. But as I said before, like there's one point in this match where Tenzin has Yoshihashi in a submission hold, not very close to the ropes. Yoshihashi's not really moving or anything to get out of it, and Tenzin just lets him go because he got bored, I guess, and wanted to do other moves. But apart from that one part where I'm just like, all right, Tenzin's gotten sick of that.
Well, he's probably tired from bumping his ass off the whole match because, man, like Yoshihashi.
Is that what he did? Did he just put that rest hold on Yoshihashi just so he could get his breath back for a couple minutes?
Probably, because, man, Tenzan fucking worked his ass off in this match. I mean, he did every bump that he can do, like every single one. And, we always joke around when we see legends on the independent circuit in my area. We always say, like, well, how many bumps are they going to take? And usually it's like none, or one. And, fucking Tenzan is a legend, and man, he's still a legend, bumping his ass off for a young talent to try to put him over. And this match was Tenzan putting Yoshihashi over huge.
I agree. He did everything he could to make Yoshihashi look good, and it worked. I thought Yoshihashi did look good in this match. Unfortunately, he wins with one of my least favorite submission holds in New Japan Pro Wrestling, which I don't mind Yoshihashi's skill set. I don't mind his lariats, his chops, some of these suplex moves. I don't mind all of that stuff. But his submission move, the butterfly lock, looks like the most comfy, unhurty kind of move you can think of. I don't quite buy that move. But, Tenzin did his job. He made Yoshihashi look good, who, with the butterfly lock, unfortunately, advances to the next round. So that match definitely made up for what was quite a botch fest of a first match. And then I think we're going straight into what I think is match of the night, and it isn't a tournament match.
Nope.
No, we've got Chaos versus LIJ. So we've got Sho, Toru Yano, Tomohiro Ishii, and Kazuchika Okada versus Hiromu Takahashi, Shingo Takagi, Sanada, and Tetsuya Naito. And, excuse me, you always know it's going to be a fun time because the LIJ tag matches are usually the best. And this is no exception.
It is. We learned some history in this match, too, because we learned that when Takahashi was a young boy, he was hazed by Yano, and Yano cut his hair with clippers. And so Takahashi's reaction to this was to be the most frightened person who's ever lived. When he came out slowly and just stared at Yano. And if you check out our Twitter, I made a little video out of this because it's the greatest thing ever. And he just stared at him for 3 minutes, and then you see Yano going, "What the heck? Why are you mad at me?" And one of my favorite parts of this is that all the other wrestlers on the tag team come out, and they're all standing, and they're doing their their pose, and fucking Takahashi is just laying there cowering in fear, and they just ignore him. They're just like, that's what he does. He's that kind of guy. I love it so much. Luke, you still there?
Yeah, I had the mute button on. I said I wasn't going to do that, and I did it. It is. We should come up
with a code for that. You know what I mean? That should be a code. What are you in the butterfly lock? Something like that.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I was definitely relaxing in the butterfly lock. So this is a great match, but they do tease a little bit more of Sho and Shingo because they're going to have hopefully a title match. Hasn't been announced yet. Why would you announce it when one of the people who beat Shingo, Sho, he's still in the tournament? So you wouldn't announce a title match yet, which totally makes sense for me. But they're teasing the shit out of Toru Yano versus Hiromu. which, oh my God. All right, so they're the two legal men at the end of the match. And they both get kind of caught up with each other. I think, the tape comes out, all this kind of stuff, and neither man can make it to the ring on time. So it's a rarity in New Japan that we get these kind of finishes in either tag matches or singles matches, actually. But they do happen, and we have a very rare count out. So nobody really wins that.
Double count out. And Toriano had clippers hid on his body in like 8 different places. So every time that he had escaped the clippers, he had another pair, and Yano is clearly having the time of his life, and Hiromu is like, this is right up my alley. I mean, this is like the kind of thing that you can tell both wrestlers are having so much fun with this. And I mean, they also chased each other like out of the ring area too. They were like backstage, which is a lot of fun. So again, you rarely see stuff like this specifically in New Japan, where they go out of the ring area and it's not just into the crowd. Usually that would be into the crowd, not backstage. But we're going to get a lot more of that later. So.
Yes, we are in night 5. We have a break here after that, which Grandmaster promo, and followed by disinfectant and commercials and shit like that. Then we got my second least favorite match of the night, I'd say, after the first one, which is Yujiro Takahashi. That's the Tokyo Pimp from Bullet Club versus Hiroki Goto. And the reason I say that is, all right, I think if Yujiro was wrestling somebody else, maybe that other wrestler would have wrestled in such a way that you could believe that Yujiro might win. At no point in this match did I think Takahashi, meaning Yujiro, at no point did I think he could win, and he doesn't. GTR.
And it was a crappy looking GTR too, and Goto. I know everybody loves Goto and they think he's great, but I think he's in that same category as Bushi and Yo, where he's just not. I've never seen him have a great match with someone who's not as good as him. And that's kind of what we had here, and this is what happens. Now, again, you may say, people would say, well, Yujiro Takahashi's not that great, but I disagree. I've seen him have tremendous matches. He has a long storied history, tagging with Naito, and in New Japan, and he's a tremendous wrestler when he wants to be, and I think he wanted to be here. He just, he had to wrestle Goto, so that sucks.
You and Goto. Look, I kind of agree with you there. I've seen Goto have great matches. Switchblade. His couple matches with Switchblade last year, were pretty good. His battles for the Never title over the last couple of years have been great as well. But you're right. I guess he's not one to elevate like someone else, like an Ishii or an Okada or something like that. Yeah, I can definitely see that. I still like him, I can still like a wrestler and not think that they're the bees the bee's knees or the best ever at the same time. Like, that's fine. And then we got our main event for the night, which is a pretty fun, hard hitting match with Satoshi Kojima, Mr. Bread, and Evil.
Mr. Bread.
Mr. Bread. He's always tweeting about bread. I don't know the whole bread story. I guess you know a little bit more about it. You probably know a lot more about it than I do, but he loves his carbs.
I mean, what happened with Kojima is that Kojima, first of all, his nickname is the Cozy Lariat, which is, I don't know what the fuck that means, but it's awesome. So, his finisher is a lariat too. But he, back when the Bullet Club thing was just taking over the wrestling world, there was blank club with everything. Everyone was, there's a wrestler over here in Canada named Space Monkey, and he has a Banana Club shirt. Like, everyone was doing that. And so Kojima started Bread Club. And if you follow him on Instagram or any social media, that's all he does is just talk about bread. And his tweets will be like, I wrestle, or he'll be like, I battle later, but now bread. # Bread Club. It's fucking awesome, man. And Evil, he is one of my favorite wrestlers in New Japan. a buddy of mine that actually studied in the New Japan dojo over here, Lexus Montez, he was just making a point to me the other day that Evil is like a big match guy. Like, he never disappoints in big matches, and the further he gets in the tournament, the further he's going to like prove that. But I thought this was a lot of fun. It was kind of clear who was going to win, though, and that's, this round had a lot of that, where it was like, obviously who's going to win, and it's a little bit of a bummer because I'm telling you, in the past, the New Japan Cup, like, all the big guys will just go out in the first round, and they almost use it as a time to rest up for the G1, but this time, obviously, this is a much bigger tournament this time, so I think that New Japan really wants those bigger names to get further in the tournament because, this is a much bigger deal this year than it normally would be.
Yeah. And I really enjoyed this match. I know I said versus when Yujiro was wrestling Goto, I know I said I never once thought Goto was going to win. I didn't really think Kojima was going to win either, but I just like their chemistry more. And there was a really good back and forth, lots of hard hitting moves, and then everything is evil, which is like that. Is that what that is? The everything is evil, the STO takedown that Evil does. Yep.
Sit out power bomb is Darkness Falls, and and I think that's everything is evil.
Welcome to our professional New Japan Pro Wrestling podcast, where we don't even know the fucking finishes.
Well, it's hard to keep track of them all because every wrestler in New Japan has a name for all their signature moves for the most part. So the old school guys maybe don't, but like all the new guys, I mean, they there's a million move names for all their different moves, so it's hard to keep track of. But yeah, I'm a big Evil fan. If you're new to New Japan, keep an eye on that guy. He's another.
Yeah, I agree. Keep an eye on him, and he's a very environmental wrestler. What I mean is, he'll use everything in his environment to kind of do moves on other wrestlers, including the ref. Like, there's a usual spot that he'll do where he'll throw a wrestler's leg at the ref. The ref will be like, "Oh shit," and catch the leg, and then Evil will do a move on the wrestler, or his tag team finisher with Sonata is the Magic Killer. So he'll throw a wrestler's legs on top of the ref's shoulders and do a Magic Killer like that. It's just like a really, really cool, neat shit like that Evil does. I find is pretty awesome.
Yeah, I thought that Red Shoes, it was confirmed that he was joining LIJ since he kind of helped Evil win this match. Now, Luke, this is the end of the first round, right?
It is.
So what were your overall thoughts on the first round, and what did you enjoy the most, you think?
Well, wow, that was the end of the. They really should have swapped nights 4 and 3, I guess, because night 3 would have been a better end to round 1. But I really enjoyed it overall. Really good match quality, barring a few things here and there. I think my favorite matches are still El Desperado and Ishii, and maybe Yuji Nagata and Suzuki, but also up there for me with those two matches would be Sho versus Shingo. That was a match in the first round. I saw the brackets. I was like, that's the one I'm looking forward to the most, because I really like the story between Sho and Shingo. So for me, that was my my pick of this week's round 1 matches, I guess. Sho versus Shingo. What about yourself? What did you think of the first round?
Nagata versus Suzuki. I'll just say that over and over. I mean, that was the greatest match that we've seen so far, because it was a true main event style match. And a lot of these are tournament I mean, they're all tournament matches, but they all were wrestled like early round tournament matches. So we, again, we're still in like the third gear, but Minoru Suzuki and Nagata, they went to the 4th gear in their opening match. So, I can't wait to see what they do next. And that's really got me excited. I also really, really liked Okada versus Gato. I think that's a hilarious story that's so fun, and I love to see the bad guys get the egg on their face. It's always a blast. And then ones that you mentioned already that were tremendous. I mean, I can't wait as this tournament goes on, and we're about to start the beginning of round 2, or the quarterfinals. It's just going to get better and better. And one thing that New Japan does well is that they are in a constant crescendo. Like the promotion in general is in a constant crescendo that is going to explode on the Night of Dominion. So, I mean, and that's what they do. So, of course, guys aren't going to go 100% or 110% early in this tournament, but they will late. And then they're going to have another gear even more, and it's just going to be fucking great, man. I can't wait.
Yeah, I'm super excited, dude. And here we are, the start of round 2. It's night 5 of the New Japan Cup. It starts off with a pretty solid matchup. Taiji Ishimori versus Yoshinobu Kanemaru. And I just want to point out, I remember I saw Chris Charlton tweeting about it, and then I was like, oh yeah, I remember that. They had a match in the Best of Super Juniors last year, which lasted 4 minutes because Kanemaru just out arseholed him pretty much and cheated his ass off to win. And then he also, Charlton also mentioned that Ishimori has not beaten Kanemaru apparently in 14 years, and that includes 2 promotions. So that tweet, usually when you see things like that, because he's got his commentary voice on as well, like when he does these tweets. Usually when I read something like that, I'm like, I really like that bit of trivia. That's a nice little statistic right there. Makes me think Ishimori's winning this match, though, doesn't it?
Well, and Kanemaru is in Suzuki-gun, and Ishimori is in the heel Bullet Club. So, this is an interesting match where you had mentioned that, they do heel-on-heel matches a lot of times in New Japan because of these tournaments, and they're not afraid of it. But, usually one person will kind of default to the babyface. And in this case, that was Ishimori, because basically he couldn't even do shit before Kanemaru was cheating 20 times. He couldn't even do his entrance,
Oh, yeah.
It's just like, so it was pretty great to see Ishimori kind of in that spot. And what's great about New Japan is that face-heel dynamic is not the same as it is in America or Western wrestling. It changes depending on the location of where they are and who they're facing, but it doesn't ever change the character. Ishimori's still a little shit. He's still trying to cheat and stuff like that, even though he's kind of wrestling as the de facto babyface in this match. So it's up to the fans to decide whether who they want to cheer or who they want to boo. And I fucking love that. I think it's great.
Yeah, you see that all the time. Like, a really good example is Okada. Like, he'll go to a town where they're not very Okada friendly. And so rather than do his, babyface stuff, he'll act like a bit of a cocky jerk, because look, nothing he does is going to turn this area of Japan on his side. So he might as well roll with that and use that as part of the story of the match. So that kind of stuff happens all the time in New Japan. I really like it. And all right, so I really like this next match too. It's not particularly long. It's like around 13 minutes or something like that. It's a slugfest. It's actually a one-sided slugfest, if you can believe it. Togi Makabe versus Tomohiro Ishii. And Makabe's shit music's back, dude. Did you notice that?
They we usually hear immigrant song. Well, we don't usually. We usually hear the shit music, which is the overdub, and and he has the immigrant song. It's like it's a cover of the immigrant song too. Like, who's gonna sue him?
It sounds about as much as like immigrant song as Self High Five sounded like Smells Like Teen Spirit.
That's pretty great. You're right. So this was a one-sided match for the most part. Makabe got a couple big moves in. Like at the beginning, he kind of won a strike exchange or like the shoulder tackle exchange. And then he had this big kind of overhead suplex off the, while he was in the Tree of Woe. He reached up and pulled Ishii off the top rope, and Ishii flipped off and went flying into the air. And that was awesome. But Ishii was a mean motherfucker in this match. He didn't give a shit. He's like, this was a perfect example of the Japanese machismo on display here. Ishii saying, "I'm more of a man than you. I'm tougher than you," yelling in his face while he's just stomping on him. And they got to something really quick in this match that is usually in kind of your bigger, main event style matches in New Japan. They have a spot that I call the shitty kick spot, and that's where someone's on the ground selling, and the other wrestler is just taunting him by just giving these little tiny shitty kicks to the head. And it happens all the time. And it's just like, when that happens, that's like, the idea is that then get that person to kind of get up and fight back. But it's just, they got to it so quick in this match. I was like, man, Ishii's giving the shitty kicks. He's fucking winning this for sure. It was great.
Yeah. There's usually a bit more of a back and forth in Ishii matches, but I guess this time it was just not Makabe's night. Match ends with some of these fucking brutal headbutts right into Makabe's mush. Like, they're just devastating, especially from some no neck motherfucker like Ishii. Just those headbutts, brain buster. Ishii makes it to the next round. I appreciate Ishii in tournaments. They never chump him out in the first round in elimination tournaments, so he's always in a few matches because you want to get a couple of really good Ishii matches in your tournament. Like, why wouldn't you? It just makes perfect sense. This is another good one. It's maybe not as good as the El Despy match because that one had a bit more of a back and forth, and I guess they wanted to make El Desperado look like a threat, which is really cool. But now Ishii with the beatdown. And it's over. Yeah, so it's a shortish kind of match, but it did everything it needed to. It was fucking awesome. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I hope that this is a message that they're giving us that Makabe won't be in the G1 if they have a G1 this year, because I've seen enough of his matches. He's like one of those guys where I see him and I'm like, okay, it's going to be fine, but I've kind of seen everything he can do at this point. And and unless he's going to do some crazy shit like Tenzan did in that match, I'm kind of like, all right, Makabe's fine. He's not one of my favorite guys, to be honest.
Yeah. I don't watch a Makabe match and think, oh, okay. I always think, it's going to be a solid, dependable kind of brawl, and there's nothing wrong with that at all. And all right, the next match made me chuckle. I guess we've got Ryusuke Taguchi, Hiroshi Tanahashi, and Kota Ibushi versus Taichi, Zack Sabre Jr., and Daoki. Who's getting pinned, mate?
Well, Dookie, yeah, he's the Dookie guy, right? I mean, you tweeted it. You were like, Dookie's in this match. I wonder who's going to get pinned.
Yeah. So it is poor Dookie, Daoki. Change your name, mate. I'm sorry. All right. Look, if he won more matches, I probably wouldn't give him a bit of shit about it, but he doesn't. So there it is. So this match is pretty much like at some point, Taguchi comes into the ring, and I was just like, oh yeah, he's in this match, right. Because the story of this match is, of course, a preview because Kota Ibushi and Taichi are going to wrestle each other in round 2 of the New Japan Cup. And I think they're also setting up Dangerous Tekkers, that's ZSJ and Taichi versus Tanahashi and Ibushi for a heavyweight tag team title match at some point. So I'm not sure if Kota Ibushi will go through to the finals. Neither would Taichi, I don't think. Mostly because I don't think you want to have another Kota Ibushi Naito match so soon. They had about... I think they had... Look, it's always a good time, but I think it'd be nice to give that a bit of a break for a bit myself. So I don't know. I don't see anyone in this match winning the New Japan Cup, but they did tease the Ibushi Taichi match really well. However, I'm a little more excited about the idea of the Golden Ace versus the Dangerous Tekkers in a heavyweight tag team title match. I think
for sure. Great. And we'll talk about this when we preview the next round about what this means for that next match between Taichi and Ibushi, because I have an idea, but I think one of the things in this match that I thought was just fucking insane is that, of course, they're beating the shit out of Tanahashi, and at one point, Yuki is holding Tanahashi while Taichi is giving him, or no, it was Zack Sabre Jr. is hitting Dragon Screw leg whips on him, but he's just holding him up, so his leg can't go with his body, and it just looks like he's just yanking his fucking leg off of his body. God, shit was crazy.
And then, Dodon by Taguchi, which is a finisher I quite like, actually. And Taguchi pins Daoki there. And we've got what we usually have after 3 matches. We have our Way of the Grandmaster promo, disinfectant time and commercials and shit. And then we have, I'm going to say it, my match of the night.
Yes.
Easily. And it's a fun comedy match. It is Toru Yano versus Hiromu Takahashi. I fucking loved this match. One of the things that made me fall in love with New Japan, yes, the strong style, the hard-hitting matches, the great in-ring. But another thing that made me fall in love with New Japan was they got a sense of humor about themselves. They don't always take themselves too seriously. They have those matches. I heard a meowing in the background. That's all right. I'm surprised my cat hasn't meowed either. It's all good. She's been a good girl tonight. And yeah, so New Japan has a sense of humor about itself. It's not always serious. And I remember seeing, I mentioned this last week, Omega versus Yano, and I was just like, yeah, all right. That just made me fall in love with New Japan even more. And this is another reason, just to, you get so many high-hitting big matches, and sometimes you just want to see something fun. And you've got a guy like Taguchi that can bring that out, and then you've got the the ultimate cheater, Toru Yano. So I loved Toru Yano versus Hiromu Takahashi. Hiromu comes out wearing a hard hat, strapped to his head. He's looking scared. He doesn't want to go in the ring. He keeps telling the ref to check Toru Yano because last time in the tag preview match he had about 8 clippers or something, like hair clippers in his trunks. But this time he doesn't just have hair clippers. He's got scissors hidden all over the arena.
Yes, my God. And I thought they were setting up a deal where he was going to use the scissors to cut the tape at one point, but that didn't end up happening. But I mean, it, because we had the tape, and you said at one point, you said that this particular ref is kind of the most buffoonish of all of them, I think, because he just is a clown. And of course they buried the shit out of the ref, but that's part of the deal. And these guys wrestled all over the place, and even the finish was so goofy. Hiromu talk. Go ahead.
Yano does like it. Hair. I think I remember this when Suzuki had a hair match. I can't remember who it was with, but he lost the match and had to kind of shave this really awesome mohawk that he has. So it's a kind of a big deal with hair in Japanese wrestling. So Toru Yano, like the biggest douchebag that you see, the kind of arsehole that will play prank on you at a party by clipping some of your hair off. Yeah, he gets the scissors, one of his many pairs of scissors, and he cuts off a lock of Hiromu Takahashi's hair. What a bastard. So,
oh my God.
So anyway, yeah, man, tell us about this finish, man. It's fucking amazing.
So, they have kind of wrestled towards a elevator door. And which young lion was it? I can't remember.
It was Yota Tsuji.
Okay, so Yota Tsuji has been taped to Hiromu Takahashi around the leg, so that like a 3-legged race, right? By Yano. So that means Hiromu's having to drag this young boy around and kind of use him to help him win and stuff. He even beats the count here in a second. But So, Hiromu finally gets a hold of the tape. He ties up Yano's feet, and then he just blinds Yano by taping around his face so he can't see, shoves him into this elevator, and shuts the door. And then him and the young boy just slowly make their way to the ring and barely make it in before the count. And so Hiromu wins by count out. Fucking amazing, man. Love it. Love it.
What I love about Toru Yano matches is, yes, you know what you're gonna get, but then they find new ways of making it fun, or a new twist. Like, yes, he's brought the tape out before, but you've never seen him thrown into the elevator like a chump.
Oh, yeah.
I've never seen him tape someone's legs to a young lion.
No, that has happened. So that was in
so there you go.
One of the Kenny Omega matches, they did that, and actually Kenny Omega gets in the ring. I think it's Ren Narita that's with him, and they actually start doing moves together while he's taped together. Also in one of the matches, Yano taped Kenny Omega to the barricade, and so Kenny Omega had to drag the barricade into the ring to beat the count. Fucking amazing.
So yeah, he will do all these kind of fun stuff again. But just when you feel like that this is funny and I've kind of seen it before, there you go, blindfolded, thrown into an elevator, and three-legged ways to beat the count out. So you can kind of say that not only did Hiromu Takahashi win, but you could also say that Yota Tsuji has won his first ever tournament match in New Japan Pro Wrestling. There you go.
Congratulations.
Now, that might be my match of the night, but the main event, Kazuchika Okada versus Yuji Nagata. Oh man, I've always liked Yuji Nagata, but maybe I came into New Japan a bit late, obviously later in his career. So I see him just as being like this big dad to all the young lions, that kind of guy, the mentor, as it were. So I really liked him bringing it to Minoru Suzuki, and he brings it to Okada as well. I was really impressed by him in this match.
This match was all about Yuji Nagata standing up and saying, listen, not only can I still go, but I can still beat one of the top guys. And, Okada basically saying, no, you can't. This is just your classic I'm better than you match. But what's awesome about this is because, Okada is one of the best sellers in professional wrestling. He's one of the best wrestlers, period. And again, a very unselfish guy. There's a pattern here with these kinds of wrestlers where he makes his opponents look amazing. Back during his initial giant title run where he just defended the belt 14 times or something, he had matches with everyone on the roster that was worthy. And he made them all look amazing, no matter who they were. And that's kind of the skill that he has. And when you put him together with a guy that is awesome, you get double awesome is what you get. So.
Yeah, I just want to say back to Evil, right? Evil was the very first person I saw pin Kazuchika Okada. Was, I think, back in the first G1 I ever watched. And I knew he was this kind of unbeatable powerhouse, cranked up to 11, rarely gets pinned. And yeah, so I kind of marked out. I think Okada might be the only one I mark out for when he loses, and it's not a disrespect to him, but it just happens so rarely. But you always believe that, maybe this other guy's going to win. Yeah, no. So, and he's doing things a bit different with his tournament matches. You might not have noticed it in the first match because it was a bit more of a comedy, but I did notice it in the second one. No Rainmakers. He hasn't thrown a Rainmaker in either match. He wins both of them by submission with the Cobra Clutch.
Now, he did try in this match.
Yeah.
There was a couple times where he had Nagata kind of wrapped up and tried to swung a Rainmaker at him, which is a ripcord lariato, and but he didn't connect, and so you can hear even the announcer scream, Rainmaker, oh no, like that. That finish is in a lot of ways not really a finish, because he is always in the big matches where he has to hit it like 6 times to win, and so it doesn't have the same effect when you're facing someone like Yuji Nagata if he were to hit it, because I wouldn't think that one would take out Yuji Nagata, in my opinion. But that's just, but it's a fun storytelling device to have this finish that you maybe need to hit a few times. And there's a lot of guys like that. I mean, the Destinos like that, and there's a lot of things like that in New Japan. But this is if you want to get an idea, if you're like, I don't know if I'll like New Japan, let me try it out. Just watch this. Just watch Okada versus Nagata. If you don't like this, you're not going to like New Japan. If you like this, you're going to love New Japan. This is like a standard great New Japan match.
Yeah, it is. And all right, after he beat Suzuki, it gave him a bit of credibility, and I was like, oh, maybe, but I didn't quite think that he'd overcome Okada. And it is possible that Okada might win the whole bloody tournament like he did last year. He did win it last year and beat Switchblade. So for the title. So I think he could win it. He does win this match with. You're saying no, please no.
Yeah, I love Okada, but I don't root for him. To me,
too.
Like, I just don't root for him because, like, I've seen all of his shit and it's awesome. It's fucking great. And when he's on top of New Japan, that's a good time. However, there's so many other guys, and I'd rather see Switchblade and Naito and guys like that get their time, because Okada had his time, and man, it was a long time. So it's like, to me, I'm almost a little tired of him, but I mean, I still love him. Don't get me wrong. I mean, he's one of my favorite wrestlers. It's just, I want to see other people win. And I'm one of these guys that if somebody is so super popular, I'm almost turned off by that a little bit. And because I think, you know what, you don't need me to root for you. These other guys do, and that's kind of how I feel about Okada.
I think I said it perfectly before. I think I cheer more when he loses than when he wins. When he wins, I'm just like, oh, so close, and that's still no disrespect to Okada. He's fantastic, and I guess that's the vibe he's going for, because he does make everyone he wrestles with look like $1 million.
He has a skill that a lot of New Japan wrestlers have, but not like him. And I don't think I've ever seen anybody do this like him. He kicks out at 2.99999999 every time it's meaningful. And his kick out is the best kick out in wrestling. And just that alone makes his opponents look amazing. Just that, and along with all the other things and skills he has, I mean, it's just, he's one of the best wrestlers in the world, no doubt.
Yeah. Which is, it's funny too, because I wouldn't even put him in my top 5, even though I still think he's one of, if not, the best wrestler in the world. That's just a personal, I guess, preference thing,
Yeah. Next, we're going to go ahead and preview the upcoming shows. You ready to move on and start doing that?
I am very ready.
All right. Well, okay, so our next show is going to be next week. I think it's Monday, I'm assuming. And that will be the New Japan Cup second round quarterfinals, whatever you call it. And we have a bunch of matches on this. One is Taichi versus Ibushi. Now, when we were talking about this before, don't you think Taichi's going to win? And that's really going to set him and Zack Sabre Jr. up as a really big threat for those heavyweight championships, don't you think?
Yeah, I think so too. I think they're trying to make Taichi look like more of a contender and a threat to things. As I said, he beat Naito at some point last year, which I think was his first major heavyweight win. Wasn't for a title or anything. It was just a grudge match. But still, Taichi beating Naito, big deal. Taichi beating Hiroshi Tanahashi, huge deal. Doesn't matter if it's round 1, a tag match, doesn't matter. Taichi pinning Tanahashi is a big deal. And if he goes on to beat both members of the Golden Ace, that is definitely going to set up one hell of a team. I'm just looking at the New Japan schedule. It says Wednesday, July 1st, Thursday, July 2nd, and then Friday. So, sons of bitches are going to make us wait a little longer this time. They do have weird schedules. They're all at the same time, though, for both you and I. So that doesn't change. So so I'll just let the listeners know right now, it's going to be a little later. Episode 3, I guess, because we'll wait till the 3 shows air, and then you and I will jump on and do the show. So don't stress if you don't see it. If we can't do a show if there's no show. So there it is.
Yeah, and before we wrap it up, I'll give everybody kind of an update on what's going on with the feed and when that should be up and all that kind of stuff. But next, we also have Sonata versus Show. And I have a couple theories about this. One would be, so let's say Sonata wins, and then Taichi beats him, because then the winner of this faces Taichi versus Ibushi, and then that even makes Taichi even more of a contender, because they're, Evil and Sonata are kind of, a tag team in the heavyweight division. Maybe that's something, I don't know. But then if Sho wins, he doesn't really, then he would beat Taichi, I guess, and then Taichi's out. I don't know. What do you think?
That's tough. That would mean does Show beat Sonata? I mean, it's possible, or you could have a storyline going on where Show actually beats Shingo for the title, and then Sonata's like, hey, I've beaten you before, and you're a junior slim picking, or something like that. But yeah, I see Sonata beating Show because I don't think Sho needs another win in the New Japan Cup, because he's already got his big win over Shingo. So I see Sonata beating Sho. So okay. I think it'll be Sonata versus Taichi after that. But oh man, I'm getting excited. I'd watch another Taichi versus Naito match. Hell yeah! I think they've got a really good rivalry going, and if this tournament would have built up Taichi to be a credible threat, I think he'll lose against Naito, because it's way too soon to pull those titles off. And no offense to Taichi, but you don't want to see 2-belt Taichi, do you?
No. Yeah, I mean, Taichi is a character, and because he's such a strong character, which one day we'll break down what that character is and all that stuff, but he doesn't necessarily need a title, just because he's such a strong character. However, I do want to see him win the championships as far as the tag belts. I think that'd be a lot of fun, and move on to the next thing. And so, but it could be just that him and Zack Sabre Jr. are just stand-ins for God while COVID's going on. But we'll see. Yeah. I don't know. So the next match on the first next Wednesday will be maybe the worst match ever. It's Yoshihashi versus Bushi. Not good at all. Is there anything to say about this? I mean, this is going to be bad.
Yoshihashi wins.
Yeah, it probably wins. So, which, and then the next match after that is one that we've seen a million times, and it's always awesome. It's Evil versus Goto. That's always awesome. They're like the same wrestler in a lot of ways, the way that their style is and everything. So when they match up against each other, they gel very well. And I love their matches. They feuded over the Never Belt, I think, and they feuded over in the G1. They usually are in the same block, and they've wrestled each other quite a few times. So this will be fantastic.
Yeah, and I just want to note that you just said a Hiroki Goto match will be fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, there's something wrong with me this morning, so.
I mean, I think you're editing it, so you can kind of just delete that.
Okay. That's too much work. Well, okay, so then on the second, which will be Thursday next week for me, Friday for you, we got Ishii versus Hiromu Takahashi. All right, and so what they're doing too is they're having this is kind of not fair for some of the wrestlers, because the people that wrestle today, they get a lot of rest, right? But the people that wrestle on the first have to wrestle again the next night, because that's the next round, which is kind of not fair. But it's okay. I mean, these guys are awesome and they're going to do great at it. But so you got Ishii versus Hiromu. I mean, it's going to be really hard. I mean, Hiromu's already had his story in this tournament. I think we're going to end up seeing Ishii versus Okada again, because then we have Okada versus Ishimori, and the winners of those two matches face each other to make it to the finals. So that's going to be interesting. And then on the other side, let's see here. I guess we don't know yet. So we don't know on the other side yet, because the results of the show on July 1st will then make, let us know what's going to happen for the rest of the semifinals. Excuse me.
Yeah.
So, and then we have the finals on the third, or excuse me, the semifinal. I don't know what these fucking things are. The last round before the finals on the 3rd, which will be Friday, and then the finals on the 11th. So, I don't know, man. I'm getting more and more excited. Like I said, if we do end up getting to see Ishii versus Okada, that is a signature New Japan match, in the same vein of Sonata versus who am I saying, Tanahashi versus Okada. It's like that same kind of signature match that is just outstanding every time. So I can't wait to see that. Is there anything that you're looking forward to that might happen?
Potential Ishii versus Okada. Wonderful. Can't wait. But what an odd matchup. Ishii versus Hiromu Takahashi. Completely different styles. I think Hiromu, can do a slap fest. We saw it with that crazy match earlier this year with Dragon Lee, where, the first 10 minutes of it was just them repeatedly slapping each other in the chest. So we know Hiromu is a tough cookie, but the size disparity, I guess, might come into play. Ishii's going to make Hiromu look good, but I think Ishii's going to smash him.
I wonder if Ishii's ever lost to a junior. I bet you there's no doubt it.
I don't know, but what I do know is that Ishii has a habit of beating champions in tournaments.
Ooh.
So I don't know if it was last year's G1 or the year before. There were 3 champions in his block, and Ishii pinned all 3 of them. So
that's pretty great. I like that. This is the kind of shit you come to the Never Open podcast for, is this kind of stuff. All right. I mean, we're doing it, Well, last week we had some match recommendations, and you recommended a match, I recommended a match, and we each watched the recommended match, even though I'd already seen the one you recommended. But this also,
I think that's going to be common.
Yeah, exactly. So, but we watched it so we could talk about it a little bit. But Luke, we got to kind of address something here, and I don't really know how to do it. There's been this speaking out thing that's going on in pro wrestling. It's making me so sad. And the only thing that's making me happy is doing this podcast. But New Japan has not come away unscathed, and there's been some issues talked about with Will Ospreay. I mean, how do you think we should handle this? I don't know how to handle it.
I don't either. I'm a bit gutted. I have a Will Ospreay shirt. If you listened to last week's show, this is prior to me knowing anything about any of the real life stuff that has happened. I said my favorite match in New Japan history was Will Ospreay versus Shingo Takagi, so I recommended that. And then over the course of the week, so many horrible, terrible things came out. And Will Ospreay was one of the people mentioned. It is what it is. I'm pretty proud of that first episode, and I don't regret my recommendation at the time, because I didn't know, man. I was in the dark. Now that I am a little more knowledgeable, I think I'll acknowledge that there is a Will Ospreay in New Japan. And look, I can't deny it. He's a good wrestler and stuff, but I might tone down my celebration of him and his matches. I don't know what else I can really do in terms of that. So it sucks that horrible people have done horrible things, and I guess look, we don't really have to, on our podcast, I should say, like we don't have to deal with it too much because, excuse me, he's stuck in England or something at the moment, and New Japan is a little slow with these kinds of things. When allegations came out about Michael Elgin, they did keep him on TV for the duration of his kind of contract and time there, and then they didn't renew his contract or he quit. I don't know which one. So they were a little slow to kind of deal with that. I don't know how they'll deal with Will Ospreay, but what I do know is if they do take a more Elgin-y kind of stance about it, I can say, oh yeah, here's an Ospreay match.
Yeah, we'll address it kind of how they do as far as that goes. But I mean, wait to see what they decide to do. But I mean, yeah, we're not going to be jumping up and down for any Ospreay matches. Although, the one that you recommended, I watched it again. It's fucking awesome. I mean, just watch Shingo and pretend the other guy isn't there, and you'll have yourself a good old time.
Yep. Yeah.
I don't know what else to say about it. It sucks. We're all lost. We're all completely lost with this stuff. So, if you're looking for us for guidance on how to handle this stuff, I think you need to look somewhere else because I don't know the answers,
All we can do is acknowledge it, and when the time comes to, I guess, look, Will Ospreay versus blah, blah, blah. And, I will probably spend the time putting the other guy over a hell of a lot more.
Yeah.
Because, we'd rather celebrate good people who do good things than horrible people who do shitty things, that's for sure. So I do appreciate you watching that match anyway. It is worth it because one man in that match is not listed in the names. I don't think anyone else from New Japan was. So you watch it for Shingo. He does lose, but
dude, it's ridiculous. It's a fucking war, and even when Shingo loses, he's still strong as fuck in the loss to the point where you're like, you can't believe it. Like you can't, because he had gone all the way through the tournament without losing, and so I was so pissed when he lost, and I was still pissed again when it happened. So even though I already knew it was going to happen, I was mad again. So
I think it turned out pretty well for Shingo because I never seen a junior wrestle his way out of the juniors as fast as Shingo Takagi.
True.
Just over a year in the biz, now he's a heavyweight.
Well, that's not quite right. He was in Noah for years and years and Dragon Gate and.
In New Japan, I know he has a history.
All right, cool.
I know he didn't just come into New Japan as a 30-something-year-old man, totally fresh off the Young Lion training program, and here he is. I know that, but so I think it's been a really cool journey watching Shingo. And here we are, we're talking Shingo more anyway. So, because we got to see him have amazing matches with all these Super Juniors, and I was worried that when they elevated him, I was like, oh shit, I wanted that show story to continue. And then Shingo got himself the Never Openweight title, and I'm like, okay, we can do a show story still. And here we are.
Everything happens for a reason, That's pretty great. But I had recommended Nakamura versus Ibushi from Wrestle Kingdom 9. You watched that? What'd you think of that?
I watched it just around dinner time with Charity, my wife, and we fucking loved it. Every second of it was fucking incredible. Easy to find. As you said, I just typed in Wrestle Kingdom 9, and then we didn't watch it on the main TV. We watched it with the Chromecast, but so I had to find it again, and then I just typed in, what if I just go Nakamura versus Ibushi? Boom, there it was. The good thing is, with a lot of these matches on New Japan World, by the way, if you don't want to watch a whole show, and I mean this for older shows than more recent, if you just don't want to watch the whole show and just want to watch the match, this match from Wrestle Kingdom 9, there is a file where you just click it, you watch Wrestle Kingdom 9, but I clicked on just the match, which gave me the intro promo, the entrances, the match itself, and then the closing. So, they've got a really good UI there at New Japan World. So, speaking of Fifth Gear, what you were saying, I know exactly what you mean, because I think I saw it in this match, especially where Kota Ibushi's hanging off the ropes and then off the middle rope, and then Nakamura's just giving him these just fucking brutal kicks to the head. And after about 4 or 5 of them, Ibushi just stands up and he's just like, nah, I'm not having that. It's legs versus legs pretty much, this match. They kick the crap out of each other really uncomfortably, like, kind of what I said about last week, stop it. Oh my God, keep going. It's incredible, and really great finish, fantastic match. And then out of curiosity, I was like, this is 5 years ago. I wonder if I recognise any of the young lions, and I did. There were 3, but the only 2 I really got a good look at were a very young Sho and Yo.
No kidding, huh? I would expect to see David Finlay and Jay White too, and maybe Juice Robinson at the time, maybe. As far as the Gaijin. But yeah, I mean, the match I'm going to recommend this week has a bunch of people around the ring, but we'll talk about that in here in a second. But yeah, that's one of my favorite matches ever. It's the pace of it is very bizarre if you're not familiar to New Japan, and it's just like, because it kind of, the win comes like, oh, he won, oh my God, it's like it's one of the first, it's my introduction to that pace. And it was such a surprise, and everything was so great about it that I just, if I'm feeling down, having a bad day, which I've been having a lot of those lately, you just pop that match on, man, and through this battle, of athleticism and toughness, you get to kind of live vicariously through these two who just beat the fucking hell out of each other, and it's fantastic. But it also involves what I think is maybe the best entrance in the history of pro wrestling. What did you think of the Nakamura entrance?
I loved it. So
it's crazy.
I only know, and I am a host of a New Japan podcast, and I'm going to admit this, I only know WWE Nakamura. When I started watching New Japan Pro Wrestling, he'd already left for the WWE by a few years by that point. So to go back and see him and just pull out a match like this, and then be depressed when you see the kind of shit he's doing across the pond.
Yeah.
In the other company, it's just oh my God, you got a big star there, like. Yeah, that kind of sucks. But as for that, like, if you only get one recommend a week, because that's just how I roll. Because any more than that, then it feels like homework, and I hate homework. But if you, or hey, anyone listening to the episode who knows a little more about New Japan than I do, and if you've been watching more than 3 years or in and out or whatever, you probably do. Feel free to give me a tweet at NeverOpenPod or Grumpy2EB, or email me at NeverOpenPod@gmail.com. Give me some Nakamura New Japan recommends, people, and I won't sit down and do a Nakamura binge, but when I want to watch a wrestling match and having dinner or something like that, I can easily look that up. So. There you go. I didn't want to do homework, and then I just gave our listeners homework. So how's that?
Well, Luke, what's your recommend this week?
All right. I know you've seen this match, but this is the second one that popped into my mind. It isn't my second favorite match in New Japan history, but when Moxley joined New Japan, or became a kind of on again, off again wrestler for New Japan, one thing I didn't expect, and it blew my mind, was not only was Moxley going to do matches in New Japan, but holy shit, he's in the G1? Like, what? Are you fucking serious? And I'm like, all right, I've liked what he's done so far. I think mostly so far it was a title match with Juice, and it was a good pick for his first match because him and Juice, would have locked horns together before and all that kind of stuff. But I wanted to see how he would fare against New Japan wrestlers in a grueling ass tournament. Could he do it? Could he go toe to toe? Will his matches be really good? I always liked Dean Ambrose, but he would have said it himself. He wasn't always used in the best way. But I was easily taken by Moxley's performance in the G1, and one of my favorite matches was between Jon Moxley and the usual tournament MVP Tomohiro Ishii. It's a crazy fun match. It is a brawl, but there is one particular moment where Ishii, who's not known for doing such things, Moxley's he's not in the ring. He's walking around outside. Ishii jumps onto the top rope. No, I tell fibs. Moxley's laying on a table on the outside. Ishii climbs the ropes and friggin' frog splashes Moxley through the damn table. And I'm just like, all right, that is just insane. I've never seen Ishii do a fucking frog splash before. The match was fantastic. I think it really showed me that, like, man, what the hell was Moxley doing in that other company when he could have been doing this for years? Like, when a man is motivated and gets to be in a ring with fantastic competitors, he has something to prove, and I felt he proved that in the G1, and his match with Ishii was fantastic. So that's my pick. What about you?
Well, that's a tremendous pick, by the way. I actually just watched that recently, but I'm going to watch it again this week because there's a lot of goofiness in the crowd and stuff like that. It's an interesting match. It's not your typical Ishii match, like you said. So that's something to check out. Well, my match recommendation this year is the finals of the Best of the Super Juniors 2015. It's Kyle O'Reilly versus Kushida. If only just to hear the announcers try to say Kyle O'Reilly over and over again, that's worth it. All right, that's funny.
How do they say it? Is it Kyle O'Reilly?
Bunch of R's is how they say it. So now this match, it was in the Super Juniors term. I'll tell you a little bit about this. So the winner of this match would go on at Dominion to face Kenny Omega, who was the junior heavyweight champion at the time and refused to be in the tournament. So it's a completely insane war. Both guys are kind of masters of all three phases of the junior heavyweight style, which would mean high flying, striking, and submissions. And they do a section in the match which is high flying submissions. I'm dead serious. They're doing submission moves while jumping off of shit. So there's a lot of that, and there's a lot of their styles really gel well. Also during the match, the ring is surrounded by photographers and all the rest of the people that were in the G1 tournament. So of all matches that we see, I think, or all promotions that we see, I think New Japan does the big match feel better than any other promotion. And this match feels like it's the most important thing in the world. I mean, the crowd's losing their fucking minds. All these guys on the outside have rooting interest because maybe one of these guys beat them, maybe they didn't, maybe they're not in the same faction, maybe they are, and all the photographers and the flashes. I mean, it is just fantastic. And interesting to your point about Dean Ambrose. Now both of those guys are NXT and they'll probably never touch each other. So So it's fucking crazy. But here's an idea of this was a very weak Super Juniors tournament. Here's just the blocks real quick just to see who all these guys beat up. Block A had Kyle O'Reilly, Taguchi, Trent Beretta, Chase Owens, Jushin Thunder Liger, Barbaro Cavarno, which was like this caveman guy from CMLL. Yeah. He was garbage. Gato, and then Komatsu. I'm not sure who that is. And then the other block was Kushida, Bobby Fish, Mascara Dorada, Rocky Romero, Tiger Mask, Nick Jackson, and Alex Shelley, who got hurt like 2 matches in, and then David Finlay. David Finlay didn't win 1 match that whole tournament.
So, was he the young lion for that tournament?
Maybe. Yeah, that could be the case because this was back in 2015. I don't think he became a roster member till mid 2016, but I could be wrong. But so that match,
seeing Ren Narita in a best Super Juniors, and
yes, yeah. They a lot of times lately they have one or two of the young lions, and I think last year they may have even put a did they put a young lion in the G1? I think they did, didn't they? I have to go back and look.
I don't think so.
Well, somebody's got to lose, so it's always smart to put one of those guys in there if you can. But I recommend that one. They also had another match. They had this kind of tradition where the finals will also be the first match, or either that or it'll main event the first match of the next year. So they also have another match the next year. It's not nearly as good. The first one is just fucking fantastic. So check that out. Luke, wow, we did it again, man. Now, just real quick to tell people, I'm having a little issue getting this show up on iTunes. It should be up soon, but it could be a couple weeks. I'm not sure. So kind of in a situation where, I don't know if we should continue to put it up on the Road Home feed or we should just launch the Podbean feed, which will be our separate one. We'll figure all that out. But either way, you'll still be able to find our show, this episode later today. And, I really appreciate the folks that are listening because we had a decent listenership for the first episode. How do you think things are going, Lou?
I've had an absolute blast both times. And this, because we're running up near the end, this is a question I had popped into my head at the end of the last episode, and it's got to do with, say, both podcasting and, I guess, commentating. And I'm just like, how do commentators piss? Like, do they become? I'm sorry to be crass. How are they like experts at all holding it in? Do they have like a jug by their feet, or like how do they manage to do that? Because we've just done like around 2 hours now, and I'm not going to explode, but I'm feeling it, and I guess people really needed to know. So just that popped into my head. But as for doing this, it's been a blast. Glad people have listened. They didn't listen too closely because I told them to email me and they didn't. So naughty. Second episode, like, just berate your audience, Luke. It's fine. They'll love it.
Well, are we ever going to get the American accent? I mean, Jamie Coy wants to know. So that's just, he's calling us out saying if we set stuff up, we got to knock it down. Is that going to happen, or are we just going to keep teasing it? What do you think?
Well, we're only on to episode 2, aren't we? Let's see how we get closer to Dominion, maybe. Okay. A big show maybe has a little bit of a bonus, maybe. It'll happen just like in New Japan when you think something might not happen a couple of years later, it does, and then and that whole time it's all been like one gigantic story, so you never know. I think the only American accent I can do is maybe really bad Southern, and that's it. That's all I got.
Well, that's all I got too. You want to wrap it up here?
Yeah. In Gato, we trust.
Yes, we do.
Hello, and welcome to the Never. Oh, fucked it up.